Etsy is making changes to your listing images, and there are impacts to your shop homepage and to how you want to prepare your mock-up photos. I've got a couple tips for you and some things for you to take a look at. All right, so this article was posted in the Etsy seller community a couple of weeks ago, and I am now seeing the impact of it on my shop homepage. So it's likely that you are as well. If you haven't noticed, we'll talk about exactly what's going on here. So basically, Etsy did some testing to study what type of image aspect ratio buyers like the best. And what they found is that buyers seem to like images with a square 1-to-1 aspect ratio, basically the aspect ratio that Instagram has used for a very long time as the standard for their photo uploads. Now, there's a link to this post in the description if you want to read the whole thing for yourself, but the bottom line of what they're telling us here is no immediate action is required. However, you may want to start taking, a different approach with your uploads if you previously have been uploading mock-up images with a really wide landscape or a really tall portrait aspect ratio, and try to make sure that your designs or your products are centered in more of a square aspect ratio. Now, a couple things are not changing. They still recommend a minimum size of 2000 pixels and JPEG, GIF, or PNG files. So usually we're talking JPEGs or PNGs for us, and a resolution of 72 pixel per inch. And they recommend that each individual file be under 1 megabyte for faster uploading and faster load times on your product display pages. So the 2000 pixel recommendation is not different. That was already there. But now, knowing that they're looking for square images, and that's really how they want to display them, we can basically just plan on making our mock-up images 2000 by 2000 pixels. You can make them larger than 2000 by 2000, but I personally don't really see much benefit in doing that because the larger the image file, the slower the images will load on your product pages. Now, there is something for you to take a look at here on your shop homepage before we talk about a couple of tips for making new files, and it's this first bullet they mention here. They say, we'll be displaying photos with a square crop in your shop home soon. And as a best practice, we recommend uploading photos that work for multiple crops and ratios like square or rectangles. So this is the thing I suggest going and taking a look at now. Go take a look at your shop homepage and see if your photos have all been cropped to a square and if you need to make any adjustments to your thumbnails. For example, here's the POD Insights shop homepage. Now, if historically you have always centered your design when you're making the adjustments to your primary thumbnail, you've got that little zoom and crop that you can do with your primary thumbnail when you upload your mockups. If you have been centering your designs, then this shouldn't affect you at all. Your mockups on your homepage should all look fine, even though they're being cropped to a square. If you have any products where you did not center, or if it hasn't been your habit to center the design in your thumbnail, you might want to just take a quick scan over your shop homepage to see if there's any that look really weird now. For example, this database mug, I can tell this design was not centered previously because now with the square crop, it looks a little weird. It's not terrible. I don't know. Like if I had 500 of these, I probably wouldn't go through manually adjusting all of them. But if you have a few that look a little funny to you, just go back to this listing in your shop listing page and then go in and adjust that thumbnail so that the design is more centered. And that way, no matter how it's cropped or not cropped, it will always be centered in the thumbnail. So for example, on this one, I could come back to my listing images here and scroll down to the adjust thumbnail option. You can actually see in the little preview here that the design is not centered even with the wider aspect ratio. So if I click on adjust thumbnail, now maybe I would actually zoom out just a tiny bit and bring the design more into the center of the frame. And then I will click done. And now when we come back to my shop homepage, you can see that the square crop has not done anything to harm the way this looks because I've done a better job of centering the design in my thumbnail. So 2 takeaways here as far as adjusting your mockups in that primary thumbnail. Try to always center the design. That way, no matter how Etsy is cropping or not cropping, it will always be centered in the thumbnail that the shopper sees. And take a quick scan of your existing shop homepage to see if Etsy has already cropped all of your thumbnails to a square, and just kind of browse through and see if there's any that look really weird. All right, now let's talk about going forward when you're creating new mockups. If you're using a tool like Canva or Kittl where you create a new file each time, or even if you have a template which you can resize that you create your own mockups with, the easiest thing to do is just set custom dimensions that you can reuse. So for example, if you were on Canva, you would just click on create a design in the corner, and then in the menu that pops up, just go to the bottom where it says custom size and select custom size. If you've recently entered 2000 by 2000, it'll be right there. Otherwise, you can just type in 2000 by 2000 and it will bring up a nice square project file for you. And if you already have sort of a project file that's a template for the mockups you create and you just upload new photos each time to it, you can go into that project and then just come up to the resize option here in the corner, check the box to do a custom size, make it the size you want. I'm going to do 2000 by 2000. Make sure you don't accidentally click copy and resize. I do that all the time because it's the one that's purple. If you click that, it will create a new project and do the resize. If you just want to resize the one you're working on, then just click on resize. And that way you don't have to create a new project file if you already have a template that you use to create your mockups. And now if you've downloaded some of the standard mockups from Printify or whatever platform you use, all you have to do is upload them to your account like you always would, and then just size them up to fit your 2000 by 2000 scale, and then add your background, remove the solid white background that it came with, and you'll be good to go. And if you've created it with a square aspect ratio, it shouldn't matter quite as much if the design is not perfectly centered in the frame. Still would probably be a good idea to make sure that it is centered in the frame. I could even make this one a bit larger, and of course I'd be adding my background here, but still not a bad idea to try and center your design as much as you can in the frame, just in case Etsy does any kind of strange cropping. But if you're uploading it in a square aspect ratio already, then you shouldn't have a problem with it shifting around because Etsy's going to use the aspect ratio as you uploaded it instead of cropping in on it. My last tip for this video, if you use Placeit for your mockups, don't dismay. I was worried about this when I saw this announcement because almost all the mockups on Placeit are not a square aspect ratio. A lot of them are the portrait orientation like this example here. Some of the other ones are more landscape, but this is the exact situation that I don't want, knowing that Etsy is going to crop this to a square, and basically whatever happens to be in the center is what's going to show in your thumbnail on your shop homepage. It's hard to control that with such a tall aspect ratio like this. But not to worry, instead of downloading the mockup looking like this and then manually editing it in Canva or some other software that you use, before you actually download it, you can make an adjustment. So create your mockup the same way you normally would with Placeit, and then in the top right corner, you're still going to click on download, but you're actually not going to go through with the download before you crop it. So it'll still show that little processing your mockup until it is ready. But then once it says click here to download, don't click on that yet. To the right of it, there is a little cropping symbol. Click on that instead. That will pop open a new tab with their image cropping tool, and it will bring in the mockup that you just created. Now you can use the settings that you have here to actually create a square aspect ratio image. So all you have to do is put in custom, and you can actually put in your desired dimensions. Let's put in 2000 by 2000, and it will adjust there. So now we have a square aspect ratio, and then use the zoom slider to fill in out to the edges. And you can grab this and move it around until you're happy with the way it looks. And there we go. Now when we click download, we're going to get a 2000 by 2000 pixel image that looks just like what we see inside the selection box here. You can even zoom in further if you don't care about catching the person's head in the picture. If you just want a mock-up that shows this nice and zoomed in to use as your primary thumbnail, you can also do that right here before you hit download as well. But this is what I would recommend doing if you use Placeit for your mockups now. So there's our mockup, nice square aspect ratio. It's the size that Etsy prefers at 2000 by 2000, and that square crop on my homepage will not make it look weird or anything like that because it's already in the right aspect ratio. So that's it for this video. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions or if you found it helpful. And also if you have any tips of your own for adjusting your processes that you want to share with everybody, also put that down in the comments. Do me a favor and hit the like button if you did find the video helpful, and don't forget to subscribe to the POD Insights channel. Thank you to all subscribers. I truly do appreciate your support. Thanks everybody. See you next time.